During World War II, soldiers often had to rely on ingenuity rather than standard-issue equipment. Among the most remarkable innovations was a weapon so simple, yet so effective that it outperformed traditional steel knives in certain conditions. Known informally among field operatives as the shard knife, this makeshift blade was crafted from broken glass, ceramic and even scrap metal, proving that necessity truly is the mother of invention. Its story is one of survival, resourcefulness, and a level of practical problem-solving that still resonates today for anyone interested in history or bushcraft. Why did soldiers turn to shard knives instead of steel? Well, steel knives were standard issue, but in the muddy, wet and chaotic battlefields of World War II, they had significant limitations. Poor maintenance, rust and blunt edges rendered them unreliable in critical moments. Soldiers in occupied territories often had to improvise, especially if supplies ran low or standard tools were lost. In response, they turned to shards, pieces of broken bottles, discarded ceramics, or jagged metal fragments. These shards were plentiful, easy to source, and when handled properly, could cut as cleanly as a freshly forged blade. The beauty of the shard knife lay in its adaptability. A piece of thick glass could be shaped with minimal tools, creating a sharp edge capable of precise cuts. Ceramic fragments from broken plates or insulators were harder but could hold an edge longer under certain conditions. Even thin metal scraps, once bent and notched, became deadly multi-purpose tools. Soldiers quickly learned that the effectiveness of a blade wasn't defined by material alone, but by clever shaping and proper handling. Creating a shard knife required patience, observation, and a few basic techniques. First, soldiers would select a fragment large enough to hold safely in their hands without breaking under pressure. For glass, edges were often dulled slightly near the handle to prevent cutting oneself, while the opposite end remained razor-sharp. A simple handle could be fashioned from wood, bone, or wrapped cloth, providing stability and grip. For ceramics, gentle tapping along the edge allowed soldiers to shape it without shattering the entire piece. Even improvised adhesives, like melted wax or glue from supplies, were used to secure handles. This approach was not purely experimental. Manuals and field notes recovered after the war show that soldiers learned to test and refine their knives through repeated use, cutting ropes, fabric or rations to gauge durability. The shard knife's performance often exceeded expectations because its edges were finer and more precise than the slightly rounded edge of mass-produced steel knives. Why shard knives were sometimes better than traditional steel blades? One key advantage of shard knives was their ability to maintain an extremely sharp edge without the need for frequent sharpening. Steel blades dulled quickly in wet or gritty conditions, while glass or ceramic edges, though fragile, stayed keen longer for controlled tasks. Additionally, these knives were quiet and lightweight, ideal for stealth operations. Soldiers could carry multiple shards without significant weight, swapping them out as needed. The psychological effect also mattered. Handling a finely tuned shard knife required skill and awareness, creating a heightened sense of preparedness in tense situations. Moreover, the shard knife demonstrated that resourcefulness often outweighed raw material quality. Soldiers could adapt to their surroundings, turning what seemed like trash into a highly functional tool. This mindset, making the most of what you have, remains a cornerstone for survivalists and backyard experimenters today. Now, let's talk about how you can experiment with shard knives safely today. For modern enthusiasts, shard knives are not about combat. They are about understanding history, practicing hand skills, and, exploring bushcraft techniques safely. Start with controlled environments, using thick glass or ceramic pieces that are sturdy and not prone to spontaneous shattering. Use gloves and protective gear to prevent injury, and create simple handles using wood or wrapped cord for stability. Practice cutting rope, paracord, or cardboard to understand the edge's capabilities without risking harm. You can also experiment with different shapes. Tapered shards provide precision, while broader shards are better for slicing and scraping. Observing how these edges behave under different pressures, it teaches valuable lessons about material properties, edge geometry, and, honestly, the ingenuity of soldiers who relied on this knowledge decades ago. Why is this knowledge valuable for backyard and survival enthusiasts? Understanding shard knives connects us to the lived experience of World War II soldiers, offering a lens into practical problem-solving under extreme conditions. It also encourages modern survivalists to think beyond conventional tools, considering adaptability, resourcefulness, and efficiency. Knowing how to make a simple cutting tool from locally available materials can be, I'd say, invaluable in wilderness or emergency situations, reinforcing skills in observation, precision, and care. The shard knife is a reminder that innovation doesn't always come from factories or laboratories. Sometimes it comes from sharp eyes, steady hands, and, a willingness to experiment under pressure. This mindset, combining history, craftsmanship, and practicality, is exactly what makes backyard wisdom both engaging and, honestly, essential. If this exploration of World War II shard knives intrigued you, make sure to subscribe and share this video with fellow history enthusiasts and survivalists. By uncovering these hidden lessons from the past, we not only preserve knowledge, but also equip ourselves with timeless skills. Keep exploring, stay resourceful, and honor the ingenuity of those who thrived when the odds were against them.